I'm just going to go through step by step in the quickest possible way. And the first thing we're going to do is put our belt on. With the belt, you get the spiky end with your right hand if you are right-handed. Pop it around you now, and then clip it on. Now the belt has several components to it. You've obviously got the belt. You've got the comfort strap, which is a nice wide strap for your back, but we kind of wear it around the hip. You've also got a small carabiner, I'll go through that later, and a large carabiner. The set I sent you has already got all those pieces connected, but when you actually get them in the pack, they're in pieces. Okay, I'm putting it on the outside of me so we can see what's happening there. And now we have the carabiner at the front. Next thing I'm going to do is put on my treat pouch. Again, I'm putting it on the outside of me. Normally I'd put it under my jacket, or to the bottom of my jacket, but so we can see what's happening with that. So now we've got the carabiner out there. The reason I asked for the spiky end to be in our dominant hand is I'm right-handed, so it means that the clip is always to the right of the carabiner. So if anyone slips over, trips over, something like that, then we can reach down very easily, know what the emergency clip is, unclip it, and off it comes. Okay, so to recap, all we've done is we've one clip onto our confidence belt and put our treat pouch on. Now we're going to attach the Italian hitch. All we do is we put a fold in it like that, and it goes up the carabiner, nice and simple, and you look for that gap in the middle over there. That gap is very important because if it twists, it will lock, and we don't want that. So basically we look for the gap, and that comes straight through back to our bodies, and now we have a lead which will slide from side to side like that. The final thing we do is then we attach our lead to the dog. Now Kiki has got a body hug harness on, and what I've got here is not the 3-point distributor lead, but the 2-point connector lead. I put some of those in your pack, and the 3-point distributor lead runs from there down the bottom up to the top, and there's another T-piece that goes across to the back one. But sometimes we just want to use the 2-point. As I said, this is like a car. You can drive it any way you like. There are lots of components. You can decide how you want to. But for this exercise, we're going to use the 2-point. And what we have done now, see how loose that is? And everyone goes, oh, they're going to escape out of there. No, they're not going to escape out of there, because if I tug across here, the resistance is on the other side here. She's not going forward and backwards. She's actually going sideways. So I'm using that for that. So basically what's happening now is that this is now the new collar. And the collar is around the girth rather than around the neck. This regulates the emotions, because not only is she getting a bit of a hug with the harness, but also any tension is now pulling against the comfort strap on the other side. And here we have the other side. So there was the collar around there. If there is any tension to the side, the tension will be under here, but that is so comfortable. And we teach our dogs basically, as we're turning, when they feel that little pressure there was just 2 fingers, a little bit of pressure, she started to turn, because she's starting to realize that her body is turning with this. And so we have now made, and I can't stress this enough, we've now made the girth the new neck, and that's basically where the direction is. Okay, let's go. There we go. Good girl. Okay, so this is Floyd. We're going to put the body hug harness on him. Now, he doesn't like the neck piece going over his head, so we're just going to place the top on him like this, and we're going to clip his neck in. Now, he's a very good boy. Now, he is happy with me lifting his leg. This way, Floyd. This way. Good boy. He is fine with me lifting his leg, and that's why I've left these two clips on. But if he didn't want his leg lifted, as some dogs are very sensitive, then obviously we would run that under like that and then clip on. You good boy. And clip over the other side. And we would clip that on. Now with Kiki I only had the 2-piece connector lead. With Floyd I'll use the 3-point connector lead, and if I'm putting it on that side, the grey goes to the front, the black goes to the back. Now people say to me, which black is it? Well, you've got these 2 adjuster connectors up here. Those 2 go on the top, and this one with the label goes under the chest piece here. This chest piece here has a cloth loop. Many of them now come with the ring, which is the ones I've sent you. And so basically it's doing exactly the same thing. Here is now the girth, which is the new neck, and any redirection is from this side over here. The ring at the front here is not to be used. You can put our name tags on there or whatever we want on there. But basically that one over there is just sitting there for different purposes, but this is the one we use. I've also put in a 4-point distributor lead. With the 4-point distributor lead, these 3 are the operating ones, and the 4th one just goes up there to their collar, almost as an emergency. You know, people say, you know, what if the harness breaks? Well, it gives them a little bit of safety security to know that the seat belt is still on and it's still attached to their collar. But these are the ones that are operating. Good boy, Floyd. Now we come into the leash handling. I'm using a purple lead because it's pretty, but I've sent you the new grey ones, and the purple one is easier to see for the demonstration. Okay, so basically put on the Italian hitch, fold it, push it up the carabiner, look for the gap in the middle, grab hold of the handle and push it towards the body. Now we have that going from side to side. Now, how do we hold the lead? There are many different ways. I'm sure you've got some amazing ways. The way I hold it is I put it over my wrist, I put my palm down, and I push it down between the palm and first finger. That means that when I do clasp it like that, I am using the strongest part of my body, and I'm able to pull it back towards me. But the main operation is around here, which is just a few inches from the carabiner. And here, that's just my emergency back there, but here I either use a finger hold or a thumb hold. There are 3 braking systems on this lead. So the first one is my dog is pulling, and I just put on the foot brake. I just apply the foot brake, no pressure. I can actually hold a very strong dog with 2 fingers because that's not where the pressure is. The strength is in my legs, which is basically I'm bending down and I'm holding a person off a rock face, basically just with my legs. These carabiners are rated to 2.2 ton, so your dog's not allowed to pull more than 2.2 ton. So basically, we're operating a few inches away. I put my foot brake on, not a problem. My dog is still pulling, and so my legs get a little bit more engaged, and I put the handbrake on. With the handbrake, all I'm going to do is pull it forward. You can see I've got the finger lock on, and I pull it forward. That gives incredible strength because this now locks. My legs are holding the dog, not the hands or the carabiner or the shoulders or the back or anything else. Basically, that's the handbrake. Now, if I was to, I'm going to get my photographer to hold the other end of the lead, and we'll just hold it nice and tight there. Okay, now if I am pulling and the dog is pulling in the other direction, I can sit here all day, but basically the dog can be pulling, but as soon as I let go, the person on the other end, the photographer, just started to stumble because I didn't give them anything to pull against, which is the third part. And the third part is the release and remove yourself. So basically, the dog is pulling real tight like this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn, I am going to move, and as soon as I lifted that leg, the dog has nothing to pull against. And the dog goes, oh, where are you going? And now that I've trained the dog to come back to my hand for food, and I start moving, the dog will start following. Now, we say, oh, well, my dog won't stop following. Well, that's true. If they're in the red zone, they are totally engaged in something. Their brain has shut down. They can't even hear us. They can't think. And what's happening in this situation is we're helping them make a decision by actually walking them out of the red zone into the amber zone. All of a sudden, their brain comes online again. They go, oh, there you are. And then I take off into the green zone, which means they're going to follow me. And I've actually been able to use a tactile cue and a movement cue to move them out of the red zone, out into the green zone. So I've given them a verbal cue. I've called their name and no real response, but I've done that. I've used a tactile cue, which is my handbrake, and then I start moving out. And then I use the movement cue where I'm moving out, and as soon as they have unlocked, you'll actually see just physically, just at a certain point, as soon as they've unlocked, I start moving at a faster pace, which is the movement cue, and they go, there's the food. It's, we're losing it. And so they start coming. But the thing is that in that red zone, they are emotionally shut down. Their ears have shut down, their brain is shut down. And so we're pulling them out of that. So what we're going to do now is going to work with one of the dogs. They don't pull very much, but I'm not going to give them too many instructions. And we'll see how we go with just trying to move them along. I'm now going to attach Floyd. There are 2 rings down here on the distributor lead. For now, because these are trainer wheels, I'm going to attach them to both. The one that's really critical is the fixed one, because the fixed one is the one that stays closer to the belly button down there, and basically that's the center of gravity. So that's like us having a belt and being directed by our belts. Okay, now I just put a foot brake on. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take Floyd outside, and I'll show and imagine that that is the front door, and this is what I normally do with my training. Once the dog is on, this is how we start the training. Okay, so I am going to take Floyd out this gate. There's a park next door, loves to be at the park. So we're just going to go with the flow and see how we go. Now you can see the harness is sitting to the side a little. It doesn't really matter because it's so loose. I can get my whole hand in here. And so it's so loose, and that also helps to keep the dogs emotionally regulated because there's nothing really tightening on them. Okay, Floyd, are we going to go to the park? Okay, we're going to take Floyd outside. Now, normally when I get to the front door with a dog for the first time, I'm going to do a stop and a turn around. The stop basically is going this way, stop, and then I back up and I give them some food. I'm going to try another stop here. Stop, and then I back up with some food, and basically they will come back for the food. Floyd's a good boy, so I don't need to give him food at the moment because we stop and I back up and he follows me. Great movement cue. The other cue is the this way cue, which is a right about turn. If the dog is on my left, I'm going to do a right about turn this way. And again, I've got the hand down with the food, pop the food in this way. And I got the hand down with the food this way. Good boy. And now if anything tightens, it'll tighten against my leg and it'll just give him a little nudge, but this is so soft, it's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to do a turnaround as we get through the gate. This way. Good boy. Well done. And so I would normally do that about 3 times with the dog before we go too far, because what happens is the dog gets to the door, the door is sensitized, the dog starts rushing out, everyone's starting to get excited at that point, and basically the dog is now in a high amber zone. Really no chance. When it gets out there, it flips into red very, very quickly. So we're going to go out there this way and we come back. Good. We've got one more Floyd to do, okay? This way. Good boy. And that's just repetition, repetition, repetition. And then when we get out there, that's a different story. So let's go. You get a dog that's very excited about something, he'll probably get excited about going to the corner here. Floyd, this way. And I start moving. There we go. That was in slow motion. Good boy. This way, Floyd. And now I'm taking the chance to slide myself back in. So sometimes if a dog pulls too hard, that'll lock. And so when the dog does stop, then that's the chance for us to use both hands to basically pull ourselves back in. I'm looking out for any kind of stationary interest that he might have, and stop, and then back up, because good boy. Because I don't only want him to stop, I also want him to turn around, part of the muscle memory, and he comes back for a reward. Stop. Now the interesting thing is both the stop and the turn around are taught on a loose lead. So it's a loose lead this way, and then it's taught. Now if it does tighten, not a big deal, because it's not a big tug. This way. Good boy, and then I would feed him. Okay, I'm going to do a stop now. Stop, and he comes back to me. Good boy. So we teach that a lot, and so that's a alternate behavior for when obviously we feel like they're losing it a little. The other good thing about this belt is that you see an off-leash dog coming towards you. All we do is we unclip the belt, we know where the emergency clip is, and we create ourselves an umbrella. So teach your dog to accommodate the umbrella first, and then you start using that as a spinner. And there's lots of other stuff on defensive handling, but this is great for that. Okay, so hopefully that makes some kind of sense. Okay, so there's obviously a scent over here. He's following, and there's a little bit of pressure on there on my hip, but not much. But he's obviously wanting to get to somewhere, and there's a little bit of pressure. You can see him straining a little. And I'm just not going to use an instruction this time. I'm not going to use a verbal cue. I'm just going to turn around so you can actually see the pressure on my body and also on his. I turn around, I start walking, and he starts to disengage. So he's come out of the red zone, is out of the amber zone, and now he's out of into the green zone. Not too concerned about that being under his body. Obviously it's not ideal, but not too concerned because it's a soft lead. And what I'm going to do next is the long line work, which is very key to what we do. Okay, one of the things, the reason the belt is so important is because if I wanted him to stop, I'd be telling him, stop, 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 and then I'd be yanking, and I'd be, I'd hurt him and I'd hurt myself as well. Where like this, all I'm doing is, if it's attached to my belt, the belt, which is very similar to putting it around your belly button, all you're doing is you're pulling him out, and it's nice and smooth, and he has to make that decision to follow. Come on, Floyd, let's go and see Kiki. Obviously this is the long lead which we're going to attach to the purple lead. I like to keep the purple lead, I've given you a grey one, but I love to keep that on their bodies because if it does touch their bodies it's nice and soft. This one is polyester, it's still very soft but a bit skinnier. To wrap a lead, many different ways, but the one that I use is the crossover. It's like a, basically creating a cross on the outside of your hand. And you can normally just chuck this into a bag and it just sits there. And then when you do need to open it, all you do is you throw it out and it doesn't knot. So that's one thing that we can do. The other thing we're going to do now is we're going to attach the 15-meter lead, which is the orange one, to the 10-meter lead, which is the red one. Okay, so all we're going to do now is attach the soft 2.2 meter lead, or you can even use the 1.2 meter lead, onto the long one, and there we go, we've got 10 meters there. Once he gets to the amber, he'll have another 15 meters after that. That long grass over there is, because this is Australia, it's kind of like a little bit of snake territory, so we're always cautious of long grass. And Floyd, come. Good boy, good boy. Come on, this way. And again, with this one, I'm going to attach it to my carabiner, but this time I'm just going to put an emergency handle on. So I know the grass is safe for now, but later in the summer it's something that we'll be a little bit more careful about. Now Floyd does have a very good recall, but if I wanted him out of that area, I would just call him and I would, Floyd, this way. Good boy. And I'm just still using my hip to bring him out of an area. Good boy. This way. Good boy. Good boy. And then I'll use my movement cue to move him along. So let's try that again. He's probably on about 15 or 18 meters at the moment. I'm going to try and move him out up there. Floyd, this way, let's go. And I'm using my movement cue to, yeah, he's a good boy. Floyd, this way. And if it does pull, it'll pull on my hip. Good boy, this way. Good boy. So I'm going to let him engage again. Floyd, this way. Tactile cue, verbal cue, movement cue, all working together, and a big reward. Yes, a good boy. Nice little work out there on the park. I'm just going to get the harness off him. Quickest possible way is unclip all these three on this side, let it drop. There we go, good boy. And shall we go inside? Good boy. Now the confidence belt that I gave you was a swivel belt, and those are our new ones. So this one is a fixed one, which is great for one dog. That's not an issue. You have the lead go out of there. But with the swivel belt, you can actually put two dogs on shorter leads, and just 1.2 meter leads, and they can walk forward and all that type of thing. If they do get tangled, then it'll unswivel itself. So I think you'll enjoy that feature. Enjoy. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put the emergency harness on Kiki. Great thing is that these leads do have an emergency handle, so if you're walking through a busy area, at least you can hold it closer. So Kiki, here we go. So just in case harnesses breaks, there's off-leash dogs, whatever it is, and we need to have our emergency harness, all we do is we pop that around the neck. It's very, very soft, which is great. And I know you already know this, but this is how this lead works for it, because now you've got yourself a new handle. And then you can just move the dog without putting too much pressure on the neck. Again, the girth is becoming the new neck, and it's nice and soft, so it's the best you can possibly do in those emergency situations. All the best. So we've got the handle clipped in there, which you can use for picking up dog waste or anything like that. But regarding gathering the lead, because it's going through this carabiner, it's taking a lot of the pressure, and it means that you can actually handle your dog just basically with a thumb lock or a finger lock. So how do we gather the rest of this? Any way you like. Up you go, boy. Good boy. Any way you like. Maybe you've got all this spare, and you can either gather it with a layover like that, or in this situation you might find that it's just as easy just to gather it in a loop. And we think, well, isn't that going to tighten on our hands? Because the carabiner is doing so much work, we're actually operating this lead on hardly any pressure at all, especially if you put it through the Italian hitch, not just the wind around like this one. And so you can gather it any way you like, let it release any way you like. As I say, it's a car, you can drive it anywhere you want.